to introduce everyone to our next speaker, Richard Jackson. Richard moved into my Cherokee facility back in 2015. He was actually one of the first residents that moved in after I purchased the facility. I don't want to give away too much of his story, but he did live with us for close to 7 years. He moved out a little over a year ago. And so now I'm just going to read his bio. Richard Jackson currently serves as Activities Director, Certified Peer Specialist, and as a registered nurse for Cherokee Residential Care and Silver Spur Assisted Living in St. Louis. He is a veteran serving 11 years in the Army with deployments to Germany and Kosovo. He served his final post as an acute care nurse practitioner in the emergency department of a field hospital. He was medically retired as a first lieutenant in 2003. Please welcome Richard Jackson.
Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Okay. I'll just make sure this is working the first time I've ever used one of these. So, good morning to you all. My name is Richard Johnson, and the title of my presentation is Phoenix Rising. The theme being a vibrant life turning into a pile of disconnected ashes, and eventually those ashes coming back together again to form a bright and beautiful light. I ask you to keep this picture of the Phoenix Rising in your mind as I speak today, in the spirit of hopeful optimism. My intention with this presentation will be realized if in some way you more clearly see this picture once I am done. I'd like to offer one more piece of imagery called the rubber band effect. Remember our rubber bands from yesterday? The rubber band effect is a representation of my descent into dark and troubling times. So the further back you pull the rubber band, the further that darkness and descent occurs. But eventually that rubber band has to be released. And the further back you pull, the further it will go into the opposite direction to a brighter and more fulfilling and purposeful life. So I'd like to give you one point to ponder while I'm speaking today, that we are only limited by our belief that we are limited. A little background on me. As Jody mentioned, I'm a registered nurse. I serve as Activities Director at both facilities, focus my nursing duties at Cherokee specifically. My professional background, I was in the Army. I first started as an LPN, became an RN, graduated from Vanderbilt as an acute care nurse practitioner in 2000, was deployed, injured. In that meantime there, I also became instructor to TNCC, which is Trauma Nurse Core Curriculum, ACLS, and CPR. And I became board certified in emergency and critical care nursing. Psychosocial background. So I had addiction to prescription pain medication following my deployment. I had a back injury and a knee injury, had a couple of surgeries, and this picture here that you see is probably the darkest time of my life. This was in 2014, shortly after I had a psychotic break. This is my VA picture. So back to a little bit of what I do. So I'm a registered nurse, activities director for Cherokee and Residential Care, as I mentioned. Both of those facilities are in close proximity to one another, under the umbrella of Arena Manor, Inc. Residents at these facilities have a mental health diagnosis, and many have concomitant physical health diagnosis. So today I have the extraordinary privilege to share my story, and it's a story about a journey of hope and healing, a story of redemption and finding and living purpose and passion. So I'd like to first give thanks. So my faith is the main driver of who I am and what I do and why I'm here today. So first, let me give thanks to God for this new life and opportunity to speak today. I'd also like to thank my family for their patient guidance, love, and vital support and encouragement they have and continue to provide. I'd also like to express my heartfelt gratitude for three special ladies, one who couldn't be here today, who played a significant role in their own right by selflessly offering their care and concern, patient guidance, and timely opportunities, as well as an environment that have opened the doors to self-discovery, healing, and finding purpose. As you will soon hear, each of them has been both a witness and active participants in my journey since April 2015. They have seen the inception of this journey, seeing me at the lowest and darkest point in my life, and now 9 years later, has seen me blossom and thrive at every point in between. So Jody and Stephanie, would you please stand and be recognized? These two ladies here. These individuals are a big reason why I'm talking to you today. And lastly, I would like to thank you all for being here. It's an immense blessing to me to be able to share my story and to discuss how it impacts what I do for the residents that I serve. So in order to describe my journey, I'll show you a video that I recorded in 2021 as a little background of myself, the vibrant and successful life that once was, and the deconstruction of that life into a disconnected pile of ashes, and the beginning of the journey to recovery. So this video was recorded, as I mentioned in there, for a VA social worker had asked me to record it for a conference that she was having. So. Got a volume. In St. Louis, Missouri, where there are 30 residents, and I am one of 7 veterans. And I'm reading from some prepared notes today, and I was invited, and indeed encouraged by my VA social worker, to share a little of my story. Most certainly an honor to do so, and my intention is to remind you that being a resident here does not remove the hope of having a joyful existence and a life filled with purpose. That being in an RCF, even for multiple years, can be a beginning instead of an end. I have lived here since April 2015, so a little bit more than 6.5 years. A little background on me includes being an Army veteran of 11 years, both active and reserve time combined. I have a master's degree in nursing and have previously been board certified as an RN in emergency nursing and critical care nursing, and have been board certified as an acute care nurse practitioner. I was deployed to Kosovo in 2001, and following this service, I developed a whole host of physical maladies leading to both mental health issues and addiction to opiates. Eventually, that spiraled out of control, and I entered a VA psychiatric facility as an inpatient in 2014. From there, I was discharged to an RCF. And while it indeed was a residential care facility, I, in retrospect, looking back, saw that I had received substandard care, especially when compared to the level and quality of care I received here at Cherokee. Just to give you an idea, while at this other RCF, I did receive prescribed medication and was offered meals, but my activity was just simply me laying around in bed all day and all night and eating 4 or 5 meals a week, with this culminating in my development of a pulmonary embolism or blood clot in the lungs and losing around 30 pounds. There was at this facility a distinct hands-off staff-resident relationship, meaning if you weren't causing trouble and taking your prescribed medications, then the staff let you alone. Well, a few activities were available, they were not encouraged. And after the blood clot in my lungs, my sister intervened, and after researching, she found Cherokee Residential Care, which had just come under new ownership less than a month before I arrived. The owner, a registered nurse, and her 2 daughters, one an RN and one a social worker, were charged with our care, with the current manager here at Cherokee coming in a few months after I arrived. Now, it was at this point I had become completely emotionally detached, feeling no emotion for anyone or anything, and lacked any spontaneous thought. And while activities here were scheduled and encouraged by both residents and staff, I initially did not participate in any of them for the first couple of years. And again, thanks to my sister, I also had become a member of ADAPT at that time, which is a psychosocial rehabilitation or PSR clubhouse and clinic. So this was to provide you with some context and a means of comparing and contrasting who I am today. I have encountered great, and I do not use that term lightly, progress here at Cherokee. And the majority of this, at least the tangible progress, has come over the last 18 months. Today, I am seen and treated as a valued member of a team, and not simply as a resident. The administration, management, and staff over the past few years have slowly at first put forth and encouraged opportunities for my personal growth, fostering a sense of self-confidence and a sense of purpose in life I have not known for over 20 years. I happened upon and have filled a unique niche and leadership role utilizing a re-engagement of my personality and my past military and nursing experience. I currently serve as a resident council president. I lead the majority of activities, and I work for Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri, teaching a class on mental health at the Adapt CSR. I do a weekly group at our sister facility, Silver Spur, on a variety of topics. And through all this, I have become an advocate for the residents at Cherokee and serve as an unofficial liaison between staff and residents. The residents at Cherokee are seen and heard. The staff, and especially management and administration, develop professional yet personal relationships with each resident, being wholly familiar with their physical and mental diagnoses, medicines, but also their specific personalities and behaviors, to the point of being able to detect even the smallest nuance change in them, allowing them to address issues promptly, myself especially included. Activities are scheduled daily, and an activity calendar here is posted each month. Developing a personal and professional relationship between myself, staff, management, and administration has created a sense of trust between all parties involved, resulting in my receiving increased responsibility and some latitude, leading, suggesting, and even creating activities for residents, and in other ways, in a synergistic fashion, promoting physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Cherokee indeed is a unique atmosphere, and this uniqueness is not seeing residents as less than, but each as a person with a specific and individual need. And it is in this, my role as an advocate and liaison flourish. It is in these roles I have a chance to explain the why to residents, being particularly helpful during the necessary restrictions following COVID. And it was during the beginning of these restrictions that my input was sought on making life in general more pleasant for residents here at Cherokee, and especially in light of the restrictions. I was able to start a Bible study prayer group, a book club, and had access to numerous activities and snacks to encourage residents to remain engaged and active. Is life here all good all the time? Certainly not. We face the same challenges any RCF faces, but it is in this unique atmosphere that these challenges are met, and I am able to provide input. Having a peer advocate and liaison has resulted in less incidents that require de-escalation. I have also noticed a positive change in residents' overall well-being in a more peaceful environment, and I have become more engaged, and they are able to have a dependable peer advocate. I've also discovered that putting forth a consistent attitude of kindness, compassion, empathy, and caring, this attitude becomes contagious in both staff and residents. I could have chosen one of two paths of action. I could have chosen one or two paths, action or inaction and passivity, but each would still have brought me to this very day. And in large part, and due to the unique opportunities I have been given and encouraged to make use of, I come to this day more prepared to face whatever the day may bring, with confidence and a true sense of purpose. I came to the realization that if you see the need for change, then be that change you are seeking. Once this progress begins, those around you, both residents and staff, tend to follow suit at their own pace. I found acknowledging progress, not only in myself, but especially in others, even if they are baby steps, this encourages more of that progress. After a radical acceptance of my current state of life, gaining self-confidence, I have come to know true purpose that could be found in daily life at an RCF, realizing I must play the long game, as it were, knowing positive impact and lasting change is usually not seen in the day-to-day. But in my case, and in looking back on the past 18 months, comparing to this day, the change in me is definite, and at Cherokee in general is palpable, being more peaceful with a spirit of helpfulness and kindness being prominent. I take the difficult days as they come, grateful for progress and perseverance, while celebrating the less challenging, and dare I say, even good days, which are much more numerous now. With a sense of daily purpose, I feel I am truly at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, utilizing my life experience to help those around me, especially those who are particularly vulnerable. I thank you all very much for the opportunity to share a little of my story of health, healing, and hope, as this provides a little validation that I am on the right path and is wholly encouraging. This health, healing, and hope is indeed possible, and when actively directed, it is likely to occur. Shout out to my family for their unconditional love and support. Thank you all again for your time. Goodbye, and God bless. So I will expand on my journey to recovery and explain who and what it is that has brought me to this moment. And I will talk about what I do as a registered nurse, activities director, certified peer specialist, and sharing my philosophy regarding what I do. Finally, woven throughout the presentation, I hope you will see how my experience created a truly unique opportunity and perspective that influences and impacts what I do and why I do it. As I described in the video, I was living what I thought was a vibrant life on the road to a successful path, not knowing the looming and long-lasting destruction addiction would cause, how it would significantly and negatively impact virtually every aspect of my life, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, socially, my family, and in the community. To give you a better picture, let me describe what disconnected ashes look like in my life. As I mentioned in the video, there was separation from my close family members, I had a dysfunctional marriage, a lack of purpose and drive, no motivation to get better. After the psychotic break, there was a 5-year period where I had no spontaneous thought, no emotional connection, and I was completely void of hope. To provide a brief contrast. Hello, my name is Richard John. All right. Sorry about that. That picture wasn't supposed to be there. To provide a brief contrast of who I was then and who I am now, let me state I was then ego-driven, self-serving, outwardly successful as I rose to the ranks of the military, graduated summa cum laude from the acute care nurse practitioner school at Vanderbilt, was engaged, eventually got married, but inwardly I was empty. Contrasted to who I am today, I am inwardly filled with gratitude, joy, resilience, purpose, passion, wisdom, love, giving selflessly. No longer is my success measured by outward accolades, determined by social mores, but rather living each day to its fullest potential, without expectation, but rather intention to make a positive difference, potentially lasting impact on those I love, my family, those I serve, the residents, and to some degree the staff team members, those I work for, Stephanie, Kim, and Jody, and indirectly the residents' loved ones and the community at large. Now let's talk about what happened in between the descent and the rise. Let me start with one thing in the middle first. And then, like with any story, we will start at the beginning. In late 2019, I heard the first spontaneous thought I had had in over 5 years, and that was, it's all connected. That thought is clear, and I think it's poignant to more broadly understanding my story. The right things happening at the right moment for the right reason, including ongoing medical challenges, which lit the path to the right open door. I came to a radical acceptance of where I was so that I could begin moving forward. In other words, I had to come to and define a fixed or anchored starting point before I can begin moving forward. I realized that without a starting point, there was not a clear path forward. I also began to realize that what I did today had a great impact on tomorrow and beyond. This key tenet, combined with persistence and consistency, incited a momentum towards the transformation I have and continue to experience. As I mentioned in the video, I experienced a psychotic break in 2014, and following a 3-week hospitalization in a VA psychiatric facility, I entered an RCF. I think it's interesting to note that although this was the beginning and initially and painfully slow beginning of recovery, not just from opiate addiction, but in retrospect, I see that it was the beginning of the recovery of my whole being. Not once since that time have I had any withdrawal symptoms or any urge to take another opiate. As a side note, this is something I'm still attempting to wrap my mind around, I know this is rare and if not totally unique. I clearly remember a significant moment, my first day at Cherokee. Jody, my current employer, saw me then as a person broken by what I'd experienced from addiction, grabbed my hand, looked in my eyes, from the heart said, "I hope you will be happier and more comfortable here." At that time, and at the mental state I was in, these words did not seem to be much more than a nicety, but as with so many things I've encountered in my journey, this heartfelt encouragement set the stage for the next 7 years of my life at Cherokee. This was a turning of the knob, if you will, on the first door that was to open. Following the recording of that video, I remained a resident at Cherokee until August 2022, which was an additional year that provided the necessary time for the healing of the wounds in my foot, and what I now realize was mental preparation and insight necessary for confidence and success outside these doors. I continued to work with Stephanie, leading activities in resident council while I was still a resident of Cherokee. So that video was recorded. I just got out of the hospital, I was in the hospital for 3 months with wounds on my foot and a bone infection. So at Cherokee, I attended a psychosocial rehabilitation program at Adaptive, Missouri twice a week, as I mentioned in the video. For 4 years, I was simply a passive observer. I was encouraged on many occasions to become an instructor for the Bridges program, a 10-week recurring mental health curriculum, which I attended as a student 4 times. The Bridges program was conducted at ADAPT by an outside agency, Mental Health America. In 2018, I decided to become an instructor, went through the necessary week-long training, began teaching the course very part-time, 2 hours a week. This was my first job I had held since 2002. The Bridges, following my return from Kosovo in 2001, that was my first job. I taught anatomy and physiology at Missouri College for 1 semester. With this job as the Bridges instructor over a period of 2 years, I slowly began to come out of my shell. Then the Bridges program lost its funding due to COVID. But when one door closes, another opens. I was given the opportunity to lead groups at ADAPT and eventually create from scratch, and then teach a 12-week curriculum focused on explaining the connection between physical and mental health and well-being. I additionally led groups on values and virtues and on pain, acute and chronic, how it affects the quality of life, perspective, as well as mental and physical well-being. Creating and teaching these curricula required research, preparation, implementation, and evaluation, a process I was familiar with long ago, but had not used in a great number of years. Just as Stephanie and Jody did, the ADAPT PSR saw something in me I did not yet see in myself. In retrospect, I see this time and opportunities at ADAPT as a vital part of my journey, gaining a great sense of purpose, the re-engagement of knowledge and teaching skills, igniting a passion to help others, especially those with mental health challenges and addiction. In June 2022, I became a certified peer specialist, and at that point, felt it was the right time to begin to transition to live more independently. I decided I had to determine what I was running toward in a more specific sense, not just what I was running from, so to speak. Spending 7 years in an RCF has its benefits, but it also has its limitations with regard to the momentum of forward life progress I was beginning to realize at that moment. Then, with the blessing and encouragement and support of my family, began to slowly and deliberately formulate a timeline. It was at the going away party Cherokee hosted for me in August 2022 that Jody asked if I would be interested in working 10 to 12 hours per week, assisting Stephanie with activities. I gave a resounding yes. Neither of us were sure what this would look like as far as the job duties were and the like. This indeed morphed into something beautiful over the next 18 months. It was a significant catalyst for an unanticipated and unprecedented positive transformation in my life overall, and in particular my mental, emotional, and physical well-being. We'll get back to that in just a few moments. But I think it's important to share my journey in particular with the St. Louis VA and how it has had significant impact on this dramatic transformation. As I mentioned in the video, I was hospitalized for 6.5 weeks and had 2 wound infections, sepsis, and osteomyelitis in 2021. It was there that I met Dr. Khan, at the time was the director of the Jefferson Barracks CLC, which is the long-term skilled nursing facility. She was the first person to introduce me to the concept of whole health and its principal benefits. Whole health is the VA's complementary health approach that addresses the 8 dimensions of the whole person through working the body, self-care, skill building, and support. The 8 dimension these interventions address are moving the body, surroundings, physical and emotional, personal development, food and drink, sleep and recharge, relationships, spirit and soul, and the power of the mind. Following discharge in 2021, I began my first whole health class with the VA called MBSR, or Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. I had no expectation at the time, with any of the many subsequent engagements with whole health, just how it would benefit me. I simply stayed with the intention to keep an open mind. In August of 2022, I left Cherokee and moved into my sister's house with her, my mom, and my brother-in-law. Once I settled into my new place, I purchased a vehicle, although I was becoming adept at riding the bus, which I did for the first month I worked at both facilities. This permitted greater mobility, and I took advantage of some in-person offerings with Whole Health, starting with a greater biofeedback class focused on heart coherence. Over the last 2 years, I have immersed myself in the VA Whole Health program, taking full advantage of its many offerings to treat the 8 dimensions of the whole being. Whole Health is a completely complementary approach to conventional medicine that had a dramatic impact on my state of well-being, which in turn has dramatically affected my ability to serve the residents at both facilities. With Whole Health modalities and its many offerings, which include battlefield acupuncture, healing touch, massage therapy, chiropractic care, nutrition classes, metabolic health oversight and intervention, just to name a few, I have lost over 100 pounds in the last year and a half, achieved consistent control of chronic pain, quit smoking after 30 years, able to discontinue 4 or 5 blood pressure medications, discontinue a high dose of cholesterol and lipid medications, no longer require B12 injections, which were twice a month, and also decrease my antidepressant dose by 2/3. In this short time, I saw a return to ideal metabolic health, according to the objective standards of blood work and ratios, but just as important, subjectively experienced much greater physical and mental energy, consistent sense of well-being and optimism, greater sense of inner peace, boost in confidence and willingness to embrace each minor and major struggle along the way. I also joined a gym in January 2023 and began lifting weights and riding the stationary bike 3 to 4 times a week, which also benefit all aspects of my being. With their superior conventional medical approach and excellent primary care, integrated and interactive specialty care, aggressive wound management prevention, custom shoes and braces, combined with all the Whole Health modalities, the effects have been cumulative and compounding. Personally, Whole Health has been vital in gaining a sense of control over my health, maintaining a significant positive change in my physical and mental health, promoting an optimistic outlook, providing direction, inspiring hope, igniting that innate desire to help others, especially veterans, but more specifically in what I do at Cherokee and Silver Spur. As a quick side note, Silver Spur and Cherokee are 2 of 6 VA certified facilities in the St. Louis region. We have a total of 14 veterans as residents between the 2 facilities. Probably the most evident benefit that was realized was after a recent significant health challenge. I was hospitalized between August and October of last year for a wound and bone infection. The principal benefit was something I had not considered: physical and mental health resilience. I am now in a healthier body, mentally and physically, which has allowed me to be in a state ready to heal. I received great news just 3 weeks ago of complete resolution and healing of the foot wound, and this principal benefit has allowed me to not only prevent loss of time in every day, but to truly add life in the years to come. This is the essence of resilience. It's proven the Whole Health approach is so impactful, complementing conventional medicine and improving overall outcomes. Let me transition to talking about my position first as activities director. As I mentioned earlier, none of us knew what this would look like, and initially I began working 10 to 12 hours per week. There were some very brief growing pains, if you will, as Stephanie and I began to formulate a plan to make this newly created position functional. It initially began with the creation of a monthly activity calendar and instituting only previously existing activities with 2 days a week interaction with the residents at both facilities. It quickly grew into a 35 to 40 hour a week job, instituting new activities and incorporating some of the standard ones, like bingo and trivia, with a little more flair and a lot bigger prizes. The growth and morphing of the activities director position was influenced to a great degree by the latitude and freedom provided by Stephanie to engage residents in new and exciting ways. Activities went from something for them to just do to what underlies what I do now, creating activities promoting physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Of course, I want to make the activities fun, to some degree stimulating, intellectually and creatively. All of this is a broader context of the Whole Health framework that I mentioned earlier. Other principles that underlie what I do and guide what I do apply as well. Some of the most important are acknowledging it is indeed a privilege and an honor to care for others, and maintain a certain intention when I enter each facility, considering it a truly sacred space, their home, a place of both security and vulnerability. I'm ever mindful and intentional to see the inherent dignity of each person, helping them to see their own value. Although for the most part I do this subtly and indirectly, Additionally, I reciprocate what was done for me when I was a resident. I embrace this as a community and a family with each person, residents and staff, playing an important and individual role, and in part sharing the life lessons every day in positive interactions with gentle reassurance, recognizing it is still their life and that joy is still possible. I use these principles directly and indirectly to meet each resident where they're at in any given day, in any given moment, to help guide them to the degree possible toward and into the life they want and ultimately deserve, promoting not just maintenance of mental and physical well-being, but also joy and embracing resilience. A weekly activity calendar is posted in the common area of each facility. I have found that weekly calendars are easier for the residents to view compared to a monthly calendar, although I schedule the activities a month at a time, and then at the beginning of the week, I post the weekly one for residents. As an example of the activities I schedule, I lead that provide opportunities to engage socially, stimulate mentally, activate physically, and nourish spiritually. Our Bible studies, chair yoga with a healthy snack, Fresh Fruit Friday, individual peer specialist counseling, themed parties, weekly mental health groups on a variety of topics, a pen pal program between the two facilities, a variety of crafts each month, to include a visiting craft artist that engages the residents with unique and exciting crafts, visiting priests who came on Ash Wednesday, which we had nearly 30 residents participate in the service. I try to keep a theme on certain days, such as Movement Mondays, which is usually physical activity with chair yoga, Thinking Thursdays, and Fiesta Fridays. These theme days let the residents know what to expect and hopefully anticipate with excitement. Stephanie frequently provides suggestions and allows me to implement with her coordination things like a casino day, and our own version of 314 Day, where we provided traditional St. Louis food like White Castle, toasted ravioli, Imo's pizza, fried rice, and best soda. I try to spice up the trivia prizes such as the Breaking Hearts and Shamrock Trivia for Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day, respectively, which had the prizes in cups covered with holiday color appropriate tissue paper and placed into the shapes of a heart and shamrock. We also write holiday cards together, and there are a few veteran-specific activities. Stephanie provides a generous budget for activity snacks and supplies, and she happily orders crafts and other activity-related material from Amazon. She also provides in the budget for a super prize bingo once a month, and many other special extras. Birthday parties are, of course, a big deal. Of course, there are cake and ice cream are served, but each birthday person gets to pick their favorite song, which I play on a speaker, which many times incites a sing-along and even dancing. I also ask them to share words of wisdom if they would like, and congratulate them on the year that was, with so many good things in the year to come. I feel the residents respond well to this individual attention, encouraging them to come to more activities and engage more socially. At Christmas, I play Santa Claus, and the residents happily help me decorate the trees and the walls. We also have a minibus, and we take residents out to sightsee and stop for special events. In April 2023, I received my reinstatement of my RN license. It was after my most recent hospitalization when I was discharged in October 2023. A few days later, Jody approached me with the idea of working part-time as a nurse at Cherokee. As Kim, who is a director of nursing for both facilities and oversees the nursing duties I perform, would be able to concentrate much more of her time at Silver Spur. I joyfully accepted this exciting opportunity without hesitation. Just as the activities director, I was unsure how I would adjust to this new position. As you can imagine, I asked myself, would I feel confident enough to be able to access the knowledge and skills that had been over 20 years since I used to perform the duties that were asked of me. In discussing this position, I was initially asked to trim diabetic residents' fingernails, complete monthly summaries for each resident, to perform skin assessments. I was shown the forms and provided guidelines for when the resident forms were to be complete. A few days later, I had discussed with both Kim and Stephanie about meeting with each resident individually to review the requested information on the form with them. I only knew the residents from activities. Some I knew a little more in depth from individual counseling sessions and also my time as a resident, but I knew very little about them beyond that, especially medically. I wanted to be sure what I documented was accurate because now I was signing with credentials. These individual meetings have proven more fruitful than I had anticipated, and I have continued to meet with each resident during the month. I use the form as a guide and expand questions both medically and psychiatrically as appropriate. I also provide flexibility to the resident to talk about any concerns and make time to educate about a certain diagnosis, condition, symptom, medications, diet, complications, etc. Try to always end with an encouraging note, and I always thank them for their time. This approach has, in just a few short months, allowed for a rapport to be built, relationships between nurse and resident to strengthen, provide myself an awareness of each resident's baseline or current state to the degree I am able to now detect more nuanced changes in their condition. It has also opened the door to communication between residents and staff a little bit wider, building more effective communication lines to better serve the residents, to which their greater well-being is the overall goal. Lastly, I utilize pertinent information from these meetings to include in a report provided to the physicians and nurse practitioners who visit the facility monthly. My intent with this is to provide information for more efficient and insightful care of the residents. The staff too quickly became very comfortable asking me to take a look at a resident they either noticed something about, a resident that had mentioned something to them. This has prevented an unnecessary delay in treatment and prevented complications. As I began working as a nurse, I was pleasantly surprised by the rapid return of not only nursing knowledge and assessment skills, but also critical thinking ability, which served me so well in the areas of emergency and critical care medicine. I have sent more than a few residents to the hospital for medical reasons, although if time permits, as in non-life-threatening situation, I always run my assessment and thoughts by Kim, our DON, and sometimes to Jody. My mindset will always be in the acute care setting, although I'm adjusting more to the pace of long-term care. I don't want to jump the gun, so to speak, considering both availability and already limited hospital resources and the trauma that is sometimes associated with a trip to the hospital. I find that the immediate availability of Kim and Jody provides a comfortable reassurance should I feel it necessary to consult them. As an RN, I have been provided some latitude and flexibility in my schedule. This in turn comes with increased responsibility, which I do not take lightly. Originally, the role was to be 8 to 12 hours per week, but as I volunteered to do admission assessments, a flurry of residents requiring hospital care, a few residents developing skin issues, in addition to the day-to-day one-off needs of the residents, I now average 20 to 22 hours per week as an RN, sometimes much more. This has presented an ongoing challenge that I continue to adjust to, providing adequate time for duties as activities director and registered nurse. The RN position has credentials assigned. I most often defer to those duties as a priority. However, there are some days I encounter situations where I'm switching back and forth roles multiple times a day. Finally, let me expand a little bit on my philosophy as it applies to what I do. I mentioned earlier, when I enter work, I know that I'm entering a sacred space, the resident's home. I like to think of what I attempt to do in all my roles. You build it, they will come concept, where you create an environment where residents will flourish and watch what happens. I like to do small acts with great love, as you never know how what you do today for someone or the few moments you give someone, being fully present with them, will impact them. It just takes one moment to completely change the trajectory of someone's life, as Jody did for me. Bringing these little moments and small acts into every day is essential, as unfortunately life takes no days off. I fully understand that mental health and well-being are inextricably linked. This hybrid position as well allows me to try to positively influence residents by boosting the chances for a more persistent and consistent sense of well-being in our residents and improving outcomes when there are acute episodes of mental and physical health challenges. This position also builds rapport and trust. It increases the likelihood for a resident to share a symptom much earlier, which means addressing the issue much earlier can result in decreasing the amount of suffering the resident may experience. I simply and consistently try to perform my roles at both facilities, knowing fully I am just a small part of a larger team. The view is not necessarily about residents living independently. As an aside, I fully understand the uniqueness of my own journey, but my previous experience as a resident and the mental health challenges I have encountered keeps me in a state of humble confidence. Humble because I was where they are at, and confident things can indeed improve. I feel it's more of a focus on stable sense of well-being, slowly building resilience when the time comes when that well-being is challenged. Having a focused flexibility when encountering setbacks. It's about instilling and inspiring a sense of hope. It's about the little victories, small steps to consistent modeling of behavior. It's about a safe environment tending to overall emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual well-being. I developed an acronym to provide a synopsis of this philosophy, called SHORTPAT, easy to remember. So what that means is I ensure residents are seen and heard, have an optimistic outlook, build rapport through timely interaction, which results in increased resident positivity, greater acceptance of their current state, allows for transformation, most importantly, builds hope. This approach has provided tangible results. I have seen a positive change in resident daily outlook and behavior, a more peaceful environment, more residents participating in activities and non-activity related social interaction, frequent, genuine smiles. The eyes of the residents light up when I engage them. There's also many more positive staff engagements with the residents. Contrasting with the medication and housing only model, where there is a likelihood of short-term stability but less potential for long-term improvement, resident well-being may not be a priority. The difference in our approach at Cherokee and Silver Spur is the starting point of creating a sacred space, their home, where its residents can flourish, truly live, not just be alive. Also seeing the full and inherent dignity of each person, providing for the small individual needs of each resident. Addressing these needs for any resident starts with the universal principle of assuring they feel seen and heard. This begins with a consistent, patient, peaceful presence. When this is consistently practiced, residents are more likely to approach and inform you of early warning signs, physical and mental health issues. This in turn allows for much earlier intervention, less strain on internal and external resources, and flips the approach to a more proactive and much less reactive one. This will benefit both residents and staff in the long run. Also creates more optimal circumstances for de-escalation measures and a greater success in achieving de-escalation and return to baseline behavior. Let me finish with some key reasons of why I'm here today. A few pictures of some activities. This here is a picture of my mom with the residents. She came as a special guest for our pen pal program. This is a visiting craft. Here we made a mural in this slide. The Breaking Hearts trivia. This is a veteran-specific outing. A birthday party, and one of our persons who likes to be a joy warrior. And this is a little love connection that was sparked by our pen pal program. So the guy on the left is from Cherokee. The young lady on the right is from Silver Spur.
That's cute.
And see what happens.
Yeah.
So I had the blessing of a wonderful and all-encompassing support system. This is the pot of gold trivia, Shamrock trivia. So why I'm here today, I have the blessing of a wonderful and all-encompassing support system. Family, members, employers, VA providers, a Catholic community. This has both directly and indirectly created optimal circumstances and momentum that I have taken full advantage of to create optimal outcomes. The blessing and opportunity of those once charged with my care. They slowly teased out the potential they saw in me, whether it was intentional or not, I am unsure. I have the blessing of an integrated, interactive, supportive, and encouraging bosses who have frequent face-to-face availability. As an activities director, certified peer specialist, and registered nurse, they granted latitude and flexibility by providing a starting point and allowing me to blossom into each role. And I make use of ongoing self-evaluation and judicious use of self-care modalities for continuing improvement. It is truly a privilege to work with both facilities under the umbrella of Arena Manor to make a difference, a positive impact in the resident's life, and receive real-time feedback when necessary to more specifically personalize what I do. I'd like to come back to that slide and put it out of order there. But I'd like to read a poem by Marianne Williamson titled Deepest Fear. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking that other people will feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I'd like to thank you all so much for indulging me for so long and allowing me to share some of my story. This part of my journey has been so meaningful. And again, I thank you for your time and 3 very special ladies who have inspired and encouraged me every step of the way. My heart overflows with gratitude. This part of my journey has been so meaningful, and I have a great sense this is only the beginning. The phoenix is just beginning to rise. I hope you all see as I do that my journey is truly a full circle moment. Although this is my story, this journey of hope and healing and finding purpose. My hope here was to come across not look what I did, but rather look what is possible. Thank you all.
Quickly, Richard, can you tell them about the Pen Pal program that you created? Because it's just been such an awesome thing that they might want to use that at their facilities.
Sure. So we have 2 variations of that Pen Pal program. Initially, it started between our 2 facilities to try to connect residents with other residents, those who are in similar circumstances. Let them know that they're not alone. I think that's hugely important. And so once a month, Stephanie provides special stationery, little envelopes, little airmail envelopes, sometimes smiley face postcards, try to switch it up. And we help them physically write. They give us the words. Some of them have issues with being able to control the pen. But initially it was going to be a one-off activity. I needed something to kind of fill the calendar that month. That was something new I thought we would try. But when I saw delivering the letters, the smiles that I got, and the tears that were provided, tears of joy, they had actually received something in the mail, that started being a recurring thing. And it has been one of the most popular activities, even if it's just writing one line to somebody that they don't know. That was another intent behind that, is getting to know someone that you don't know. I usually have them write a little statement about what their favorite food is, what their favorite interest is, what their favorite movie or music is. And there's been a couple instances, and then ask them the same questions to the person they're writing to. Been a couple instances where we've actually unintentionally connected people who had very similar interests, like video games or the same type of music, or even the same favorite artist or same favorite food. So that next month, that sparks even further conversation. And I find that goes a long way in the residents not feeling so isolated. So our facilities are only 2.5 blocks away from each other, and we unfortunately have not been very many times we've been able to get both facilities all together at the same time. So this is one way to connect them. They are sister facilities, and I always try to explain it that way, that they are connected in that sense. And so, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Nice.
Any other questions? Thank you all so much for your time
Thank you
today.
very much.